Today we will be discussing why bank reconciliation statement. So, before thinking of bank reconciliation statement, you should definitely know that irrespective of the improvement of civilization, our transaction through bank is indispensable. Maybe in this recent ongoing decade, we are observing that sometimes we are also paying someone or we are getting our transactions done through various other applications of information technology. But still our transaction as business owners or business proprietors, our transactions with various banks are indispensable. And we know that we are maintaining our cash book. If it is multi-purpose cash book, then automatically in our cash book we can have all the informations with the bank, means all the information relating to the transactions with the bank, and we do have certain ledger with our bankers. But sometimes due to certain communication gap, there will be discrepancies between our cash book and bank passbook. This cash book we are maintaining, we may maintain triple column cash book, and the bank is having our ledger, and that is our bank passbook is the replica of the bank passbook. But sometimes as on a particular day, we may see that there are certain discrepancies between cash book and the bank passbook. And if we are not in a position to follow why the discrepancies are there, then automatically the proprietor or the users of accounts, the cashier, the accountant, or the attributable groups, those who are dedicating their service for a particular business organization, they will not be in a position to know what is their exact financial position as on a particular day. And what would be the difficulties? Naturally, the business organization will not be in a position to pay or to make a decision what is the exact amount of money to be paid, or what is the balance of the bank which allows us to pay. Of course, in case of receipt we don't have that problem, but definitely when we are making certain payments to outsider, to our suppliers or to our creditors, then automatically it indirectly insists on us to know what is our exact strength with the bank, financial strength with the bank. So we know that when the passbook and cash book are not tallied, then it calls for bank reconciliation statement. And what are the reasons for which cash book and bank passbook do not tally or having certain discrepancies? What are the reasons? Number one, our standing instruction. With bank. As a businessman, as a proprietor, as businessman at par or businessman with certain acumen, to reduce their task of banking transactions, they usually give standing instruction to the bankers to pay directly to the insurance people towards premium, or to the various creditors in case of bills payable, or if any outsider is giving any legitimate claim for payment from us, then automatically our standing instructions is adequate enough to make payment on behalf of our own directly without giving any advice to the provider. That is called our standing instruction with bank for payment to outsiders. Payment to outsiders. Next, sometimes we would have issued the check, but the party to whom we have issued the check has not yet presented the same with our banker for collection. So, check issued but not presented. For payment. Check issued from the organization, but it has not been presented by the party to whom we have paid the check. But the party is yet to give the or present the same with the bank, for which the amount which would have been debited from our account has not yet been done. So that is another reason. Next, check deposited but has not been collected. Check deposited but yet to be collected. Sometimes, as in case of second, we are issuing check. Likewise, you would have received check from our debtors, and the check which have been paid by our debtors are to be deposited with the bank. Then only it will be honored, and then only our amount or our credit will incline. Otherwise, it will not incline. But as soon as it is the usual or habitual practice of the accountant, as soon as the check is being deposited with the bank, his balance with the bank is increasing automatically. Because in the bank column, it is to be added for which the amount in our cash book, particularly in bank column, is inclined. But if it is yet to be collected by our banker from the banks on which it has been issued, it has not yet been collected, then our balance with bank has not yet, it has remained unaltered or has remained constant. So that is another reason. Number 4, in case of bank charges, we know that bankers are also businessmen, and for their loyal business, for businessmen or for the proprietors, they take certain amount of charges. Sometimes it is called PL commission, sometimes it is called bank charges, sometimes it is called collection charges. So the name of the service charges varies organization to organization or bank to bank. So in case the bank has taken certain amount of charges from the proprietor or from the business, then automatically, and if the advice is yet to be received from the bank, from the bankers, then automatically our cash book and the passbook, replica of passbook, will not tally. That is another thing. Again, suppose like bank charges, suppose bank is giving certain certain interest on deposit. On our deposition, bank gives certain amount of interest, and if on completion of a particular month accounting month, then interest will be accrued or interest will be earned on our deposition, and the same amount would have been entered in our passbook or our ledger in the bank, but the same has not yet been intimated to the proprietor, for which the passbook figure and the cashbook figure may not tally. And so many regions, so many communication gaps are there, which exactly call for bank reconciliation statement. Sorry. So now the question arises, if these are the reasons for which there should be a statement, we should make a statement which can convince or which can sanguine the proprietor or the user of the accounts, while the passbook figure or the cashbook figure do not tally. In that case, periodically it is done. Maybe we can say a fortnight it may be done, or it may be done monthly, or as the case may be, or as suitable to the proprietor or the accountant, according to the nature and size of the business and the activities of the business organization, and at the same time the transactions with the bankers, that matters most. So what we have to do exactly, if as on a particular date bank passbook balance shows credit balance of rupees 10,000, and all the information communication gap or information what differences would have been there or are given, and as on a particular date the passbook balance of a particular proprietor shows the credit balance of rupees 10,000, and what are the communication gaps? Suppose one, interest on deposition of rupees 500 have not been communicated to the business. One interest on deposition of rupees 500 have not been communicated to the business. In this case, bank has already given an interest of rupees 500 and which has already been entered in the bank passbook, but the same has not yet been communicated to the proprietor. So naturally, the proprietor cash book would have been kept untouched, means unaltered. The figures should have been undercast in comparison to the passbook balance. So this amount has not yet been maintained in the cash book, and to know the cash book figures before maintaining this or before entering this 500 rupees on the credit side, on the original side, on the favorable side, then automatically our cash book would have been undercast by rupees 500. So to know the less balance, we have to get it, but get the same added. So what we have to do, add interest credited, less interest credited but yet to be entered. So automatically during that period our cash book balance would have shown 9,500 instead of 10,000. Sometimes some accountants feel like that it is to be added. But exactly, there is a marvelous story during your childhood you would have heard regarding the distribution of cakes amongst monkeys and amongst cats, and one monkey on the tree is coming to get it divided among the two errant monkeys, and he is taking one part and another part again, and at last the cats are not getting the cakes, and entire cake would have been consumed by the monkeys. Likewise, some accountants feels if it has been added to the passbook balance, then to get the increased balance of the cash book, we should get it added. But exactly that is not the thing. We have to get the unmaintained balance. It has not yet been maintained, means communication has not yet been done from the bankers, so it has not yet been done by the accountant of the proprietor, so it would have been undercut by 500 rupees. So to know the cash book balance, by then automatically you have to deduct the balance from the passbook. So less interest credited but yet to be entered in our cash book. If it is affected, then naturally the cash book balance should have shown the balance of rupees 9,500. Likewise, again, bank has taken charges. Bank has taken charges of rupees 100 and entered in the passbook. When bank is taking charges as service charge, then it is going to give what the passbook balance should have been declined by rupees 100, but our cash book balance remains unaffected. So to get the same, we have to do add bank charges being entered in passbook but not shown in cash book. So in that case, our cash book balance should have been, if it is added, then 10,100. 10,000 plus this 100 which have been debited by the bankers, but it has not yet been shown in our cash book. So our cash book balance would have an inclined balance of rupees 100. So to get that figure, we have to add that 100 rupees with our balance. Then what would have been our cash book balance? Our cash book balance would have been 10,100. Again, suppose premium of rupees 3, premium of insurance have been paid directly by the bankers of rupees 1,000. Whenever they are giving the premium to the insurance company, they get the same debited to their account. So it has already been decreased, but this 1,000 rupees has not been maintained in our cash book, for which our balance should have an inclined figure. So it is to be done, add premium paid directly. Premium paid directly. So naturally our the balance should be 11,000 instead of 10,000. 10,000 plus this 1,000 is becoming your 11,000. This is another situation on which we have to add premium paid directly. Then supposing bill of rupees 500 have been honored, bill of rupees 500 have been honored by our banker, 500 rupees once bills payable to us exactly, which have been received by the banker and have been honored by on behalf of us. So naturally the cash book has not yet been maintained, but the passbook balance as on that have been maintained. So in case of payment, this is a payment, so the balance of the passbook have been declined, but it has not been affected in the cash books. So what we have to do, again add bills payable have been honored by the banker. So in the, if we are adding this 500 with 10,000, our figure is coming 10,500. This is the cash book balance with this communication gap. Likewise, again sometimes errors of commission and errors of commissions may happen. As we know that human is to err and perfection is the God, so the bankers are also not coming from moon or Mars. They are also natural human beings and they may also commit sometimes mistakes. Sometimes some error of commission and sometimes error of commissions are there, for which some communications gaps may be there, and naturally our bills receivable, bank reconciliation statements will be done in that way, so that we can rectify the errors which have been occurred. Apart from that, suppose one collection of rupees 2,000 have been done directly by our banker. So one collection exactly we have to get from our debtors that have been collected by the bankers directly. So naturally our passbook balance would have been inclined or increased. By then our cash book has not yet been maintained, for which what we have to do to get the declined figure of the cash book, what we have to do, less collection by banker directly. So if we deduct this 2,000 from 10,000 of passbook balance, naturally our balance will be 8,000. Likewise, so many transactions are there through which or for which we need bank reconciliation statement. Here we have to also know that we are not to get it equal, or we are not to get it same what we should do. What we have to do is, if passbook balance is there and with certain communication gap, what would have been the cash book balance, that we have to ascertain, or else if the cash book balance is given and with certain discrepancies or with certain communication gap, we have to ascertain during that period or with all these communication gap what would have been the figure of passbook, that we have to ascertain. But sometimes it is misunderstood by the accountant in a very peculiar way, and it comes in a very farcical way, and naturally instead of convincing the proprietors or users of the accounts, financial accounts, it just mislead the proprietor and sometimes it defies the original objective of our financial accounting system. So we have to equip the same in a very meticulous way and in a very particular way, so that everyone, the users of the accounts, can grasp the same and can take the right decision, because you have to equip the proprietor of the business, of the management of the business in such a way so that no mistakes would be there on the way for payment or for collection or for anything else. Because if we are if we commit mistakes every now and then,